Hello, and welcome to Heart to Heart with Joyous J. I'm Janice Pettigrew, your host for the day. This particular podcast is dedicated to helping people look within themselves to discover truths that they might never otherwise learn. Of course, I know we're all still thinking about 2020 and everything that we went through and actually are still going through even at the beginning of 2021. But I found myself recently reflecting on what 2020 meant to me. Of course, it meant having least contact with my loved ones, not being able to see them as often as I would like. But then I had to honestly say to myself that, well, before all the restrictions popped in, I didn't see them as often as I would have liked in the first place. But that just made it more acutely aware to me that I need to do better. And perhaps many of you have had the same thoughts as well. One thing I've learned during all of this is that I actually love spending time with myself. But that time must be constructed time. That too, I learned. It's not easy to admit when you're struggling or that you have questions that you don't have answers to. And if you're a couple, it's not easy to admit that sometimes I don't like you. And I'm pretty sure that there's sometimes you don't like me. But in either case, it's important to look deep within and discover some facts and truths about yourself so that you can be a better person than you began. I know that in 2020, I learned to love me more and to accept me with all my flaws. As a matter of fact, that's one of the first lessons I talked about in the very first book I wrote called Journey to a Fresh Start, Releasing the Junk, Revealing the Jewels. In that book, I examined myself then from the young person I was when I got married and having babies, and of course, being in relationships that were not healthy. As a matter of fact, the first unhealthy relationship that made a big impact on me was the one in which I married entirely too young. But have you ever heard the term shotgun wedding? Well, you could kind of call that with when I got married. I was pregnant, and my parents were not going to have a pregnant daughter in their house. So the person who got me pregnant was told, uh, you're going to take care of her. So we got married. We started out somewhat happy, but him being 5 years older also brought about things in me that I realized I was still so young. I had so much to still learn about who I was. Um, Disclaimer, I was only 17, so I had a lot to learn. I gave birth to my first son, and then a year and a half later, I gave birth to a second. But in all of that, I discovered that I began to surpass who my husband was. It didn't make for a good relationship, to put it mildly. So we had our ups and downs, and eventually we went our separate ways. But that's not to say that we still didn't have interactions. After all, we did have two children. And it was important to me, regardless of my relationship with them, I needed them to have a good relationship with their children, which is something I tried to promote every opportunity I had. It wasn't always an easy task, but it was something that needed to be done. In 2020, I looked at my life and where I had been, where I was, and where I wanted to go. You see, I found myself in my third year of being unemployed after losing my job 2 weeks before my 60th birthday. Yes, I said 60. But 60 is just a number because, as my grandkids tell me all the time, I'm a pretty hip grandma. They are able to come and talk to me about any and everything. And I don't sugarcoat things for them. So to say that I'm looking at my life is because I want to encourage them to do the same thing. Because one thing about it, I don't want them to have to suffer in silence with some of the things I did. And I want them to always feel free and safe to come to me and talk to me about anything that they don't feel free and safe to talk to their parents about. Sometimes it's a give and take thing. Sometimes I just listen. And sometimes I just ask questions. But I ask questions that prod them to come up with the right answer. And if they really truly want my input, I provide that as well. So that's why I decided to come up with this podcast, Heart to Heart, because I wanted to be able to do this for other people that I never see, that I could prod them to think about their life and what they've learned and where can they go from there and what can they improve upon. I want to be able to help others and not even leave my home if I didn't have to. Since it seems like we're going to be stuck in this quarantine for who knows how long, contact with actual people is very minimal. So I thought this could be a good way to have contact with people. And I hope it is. I hope that as you continue to tune in to Heart with Joyous J, that it will uplift you, inspire you, encourage you, prod you, anything to get you out from where you are at the moment. Sure, it's never going to be easy, but hey, you're still breathing. And I, like many of you, lost loved ones to this current pandemic that we're in. And all I can say is my heart, my prayers, and my love I send to you, just as I pray you send them to me and any others that you come in contact with. Everyone's life has purpose. We don't always know what they are. Sometimes we don't even know what our purpose is until we take the time to reflect within. And it can't be guided by fear or even fear of losing, of being wrong. Because being wrong just gives you another opportunity to be right. But right is what's right in your eyes, not dependent on someone else's intimidation, their thought, their process, because we're all different people. And if we learn to embrace each other, learn to support each other, learn to acknowledge that we have differences, but those differences makes for a great rainbow. And that's something that we should all look forward to. I know it's not easy. It's not easy to step outside of your comfort zone. It never was easy for me. I was always the one that stayed in the shadows, worked from behind. And one day someone prodded me and encouraged me to join this little group called Toastmasters. And that gave me courage. It really did. And I discovered I loved it. So much so that I went through all the different programs and excelled and grew through the organization and the group. Now, I've not been in Toastmasters for a while, but whenever is the opportunity for things to open up more and people can get together, I think I'll look for a new club. But in the meantime, this is my club, Heart to Heart. And I hope you'll want to join me on this little adventure of mine. No, as I've said, it won't be easy, but I hope you'll stick it out with me. I hope you'll learn and grow with me and push me as well. As I said, it's never really easy. But here's something I want to do. I know there are all kinds of podcasts out there, and I don't know how much interaction that people get with the host of a podcast, but I want to give you something. It's an email address that you can send me your thoughts, send me your encouragement, or send me your prayers, or even a topic you'd like to talk about. Joyous J 57 at gmail.com. Write that down, save it, and I hope I hear from you one day. In either case, getting back to looking at 2020, there's one thing that I feel so proud about that has given me hope. And that is when I finally, truly discovered that I was healed from the abuse and other issues from my first marriage. How did I discover that? It's really easy. You see, on Thanksgiving Day in 2020, the father of my sons passed. It was not totally unexpected, but still it's a shock. And my sons had to deal with it in their own way. And it was up to them to come up with dealing with the funeral services and all the other things involved with a loved one's death. And in the midst of the pandemic and the requirements for being able to have an in-person service, I found myself helping them. And I helped them with love. I could even remember great times with their dad. And we talked about some of them. And I laughed and joked with them. And I could point out to them some of the finer qualities they each possessed that were a part of their father. Who could believe that I could do that? I certainly never believed I could. Or better yet, who would have ever thought that it would be me, Janice Pettigrew, leading the service, the homegoing service for their dad? Standing there before the family and speaking about love and the importance of love and the importance of forgiveness. I found my heart opening up even wider. I found myself smiling and sharing little nuggets of memories that I had of their dad with the people that were in attendance. And I noticed that among the tears, there were little smiles and little snickers. And it was genuine. And my delivery was genuine. It truly, truly came from my heart. And I knew it. And I felt wonderful doing it. And all I could remember thinking was, I hope their dad knew that irregardless of anything, I'm always grateful to him. Good, bad, indifferent. First of all, he gave me two precious gifts, our sons, and I love them both dearly. And because of my experiences with him, it also helped me. It grew me, it taught me. And for that, I can't be ungrateful. I have to be grateful. Love, it is truly beautiful. But forgiveness, all forgiveness, that's right up there with love. Because when you can forgive, you're also giving back love. If you hold on to hurt, hate, it stunts your growth. And the person that you're hating, they've moved on. It doesn't matter to them. And that's the one thing I used to always try to tell people. that forgiveness isn't from the other person, it's actually for you. So the final thread that I needed to see that my healing was complete was that day when I stood there during the homegoing service for my son's father. And actually, at the moment that it was just ending, the sun broke out. I think that was a message from God then that I'd done well, and that's okay. I think my sons are proud. I know I am. And I'm looking forward to whatever else 2021 has in store for me. I'll share it with you on this program, and I hope you'll share with me as well. Hey, that's it for this time. Perhaps we'll talk a little longer the next. But thanks for joining me on Heart to Heart with Joyous J. We'll talk soon.